Welcome to the Daily Download. I'm Travis Fain, and today's deep dive conversation is about State Auditor Beth Wood, who ran her state-issued vehicle into a parked car last month after a Christmas party. I'm joined by Matt Tallhelm. He's been covering this story. Matt, welcome.
Glad to be here, Travis.
All right, so I'm going to lay out the basics of what we know on this accident. You fill in some gaps, and then we'll go from there. So it's December 8th. Number of Christmas parties in downtown Raleigh that day. Actually, the day of the lighting of the state tree, out front of the Capitol, but I don't think that's particularly relevant. It's
holiday.
Was
a holiday spirit. Yes.
Everybody's feeling the spirit. She's making a turn in downtown Raleigh. It's about 9 o'clock. Hits a parked car hard enough that she runs up on it. So like one wheel is up on the hood of this car. By the time the cops get there, the vehicle, state-owned Toyota, has its front two wheels kind of up in the air. It's still running. Driver nowhere to be found, right?
That's exactly what happened. And what we know from 911 calls from people that were there, they were reporting there's this car. It's on top of another car. That's how they described it. And they all said it's still running and there's no driver around. So that was within just a few minutes of when the accident itself happened that these 911 calls came in.
Right. And so this is December 8th. The news media, us included, we get involved last week. We find out about this, and it's just been drip, drip, drip since then. The state auditor not really looking to answer questions.
No, we haven't seen her in person at all. We have received a statement from her attorney that came after several days of asking these questions of what happened, what's going on here. She referred us to her attorney, and that attorney finally sent a statement out Monday, so about, 4 or 5 days after this all broke, basically just admitting to a hit and run, apologizing to the owner of that car, and describing this as she says she made a sharp turn and hit the car. It's hard to judge. We've been sitting in that parking spot where that car was several hours every day covering this story, and people do make a pretty tight turn in there, and you could see how maybe a car could clip a car. Her state-owned car ended up, though, on top with two wheels in the air. So it does raise a lot of questions of how this accident actually happened, where she was coming from, where she was going. We don't know those answers. Those are things that they have not answered for us.
Right. And so we've pieced together what we can here and there. The latest reporting, I'm talking about Wednesday afternoon, is that she was at a holiday party thrown by Rufus Edmiston. He's a former state attorney general, Secretary of State, prominent attorney with offices downtown. He was having a Christmas party, and the accident actually happens outside of that office. Took us a while, though, to confirm that she was actually at that party. We believed it for a while, and then we confirmed it.
Right. We had received an invitation for the Christmas party that we know people were attending there, and through sources, we were able to find out that she was there at some point. In her statement through her attorney, she said she was at a holiday gathering for about 2 hours before the crash. She did not say where that was, but we are able to, through sources, to piece that together, that she was there at Rufus Edmiston's party. From what we've heard of this is a lot of important people that go to this party every year, and people he works with as well that are a part of a garden show that he does.
Yeah, big garden guy.
So there's a whole mix of people there, and some people, I talked to one person that was there for an hour early in the evening, didn't see her, but just said, there's a lot of people and a lot of prominent Democratic supporters because, of course, he was a former state attorney general and big in politics here.
Yeah, so she's there at the party earlier in the evening. We don't know exactly the time. Then, like I said, around 9 o'clock, she's either passing by or pulling up right in front of that law office
just
there.
Feet, that crash scene is feet away from his office.
And it hits the other car. Now, tell us about the Instagram video.
Yeah, so we had someone send us an Instagram video. His name's Larry Beam, and he was driving for Uber that night. He was going on his way to pick up a passenger and was stopped there at the corner of Salisbury Street and West Hargett Street. He was on Hargett, so he couldn't see exactly around the corner where that crash had happened, but he said he heard a scraping sound. He doesn't think it was the actual crash. He thinks he heard the scraping of a car door on the ground as someone tried to get out of it. He, in this video, describes them saying, this group of people saying, get her out of here. And in that video, you see a woman dressed in white. He says in his video that night, he said that woman in white was driving the car. You see her, she's wearing all white, she has short cropped blonde hair, tall, slim, matches the description, fits Beth Wood.
Yeah, for folks that don't know, Beth Wood is fabulous in her dress. Like, I mean, when you see Beth Wood
Stands
walk
out.
into a room, you know it's her. She has that tight, short cropped hair. She's tall, and she just is always decked to the nines. And I mean, this looks like a Beth Wood outfit.
It's a white, looks like fur trimmed coat of some sort. And when you zoom in, the more you zoom in on the video, it more and more clearly looks like Beth Wood. And so this Instagram video from this Uber driver, he posted it that night after he was finished driving, and nobody really thought anything of it. He didn't think anything of it until he started seeing the news stories. He said one of his friends called and said, "Hey, was that the crash you saw?" Once he saw the articles about Beth Wood, and his mom called him and said, "I think that's the person you saw in the crash." And he looked at it, he looked at the video and said, "That's definitely the same person."
Yeah, so for more than a month, this video is just sitting out there in the vastness of the internet. No one, or at least we, do not realize its relevance. We don't know it exists until we're already reporting on this story for several days.
Yeah, he posted it back in December 8th thinking, he was thinking people were drunk driving, and
Right.
he does not support that. He's very anti-drunk driving, thinks people, have all these options, Uber and all these things. Why not just call that? So that's the message he posted with the video originally, not knowing anything else was happening. But in the video, you clearly see this woman who appears to be Beth Wood being ushered, almost pushed into Rufus Edmiston's law office by several people. There are several other people around her that are pushing her, ushering her into this office. And then as the Uber driver drove on, you see the scene of the crash. It's the state-issued state plates on this Toyota Camry. The car is on top of another car, and there's some other guy there that appears to be on his cell phone, and then he kind of kicks at the car. We don't know exactly what he was doing there. We have not been able to identify him or anyone else.
You're almost leaving out the best part about that guy, though. Tell people what he's wearing.
He is wearing bright red shoes, and not a lot of people, I think, guys probably are wearing bright red shoes.
Yeah, with a suit or a tuxedo, some sort of evening attire, it seems like.
The red shoes definitely stand out in the video in an all-black suit there. And, that was actually the funniest part, according to Larry Beam, who took that video. He thought that was just the funniest thing. And now as he realizes more about what was going on, he said, this is something these people all should be held accountable somehow.
Yeah, why are they kind of, as you say, ushering her in? Who are these people? We're certainly trying to ascertain that. It's one of kind of the known unknowns we've got. We're going to take a quick break, but we'll talk a little bit more about what we do and don't know about this story when we come back. We'll also talk about an interview you had with the owner of the car that was struck and was just... this is all kind of interesting. There are a lot of moving parts, and it'll continue to be covered. But we'll come right back and discuss it some more. All right, welcome back. We're here with Matt Tallhelm, WRAL reporter extraordinaire, who's been on the Beth Wood beat the last, you've been working on this story about a week?
Yeah, at this point it is a week.
Yeah, and so how did you end up finding, or did he find you, the owner of the vehicle that was struck? At some point in this saga, you talked to him. In fact, I believe you drove out to see him.
Right, he lives in Pinehurst. So we, through obtaining records about the crash from the state, in the insurance that was filed, Beth Wood filed an insurance claim with the state. It had the driver's name of the other car, or the owner of the other car. No one was driving it at the time. It was just parked there. So I found this owner, found his number, and I texted him pretty early one morning and just said, "Hey, we've got your name. We think you're the owner of this car involved." And he said, "There's more to this story." And he was more than willing to talk with us. He's an Army veteran. We drove down to a house that he's working on in Pinehurst. And, he was very open and honest about what he experienced. This is his car. His daughter, who's, I believe, 26, was driving it to work. She works in downtown Raleigh. And so she was just driving it to get to and from work. It was parked there near where she is employed. And she came out to see this car on top of her car and took the first photos that we were able to obtain of the accident there. And it showed that scene that was, far more than anything we, I think, first expected with a hit and run.
Right, because at this point we knew, and I don't know if I've said what she's been charged with. She's been charged with hit and run. Mm-hmm. She's been charged with a moving violation. I mean,
right.
Essentially running into the car and then running away herself. So we knew that she allegedly had done this, that she had struck this car. We didn't know it was kind of halfway up in the air.
Right. I mean, honestly, the first day of covering this, we were kind of sitting there saying, "What's the big deal here?" Maybe she just tapped a car. That's what it sort of seemed like because no one was talking about it. No one was really giving any description. And even in the insurance claim report that we were able to obtain, Beth Wood herself described it as making a sharp or hard right turn. And so we didn't know too much until we saw heard the 911 calls saying a car on top of another car. And then the next day we see these pictures that really show two wheels of Beth Wood's state-owned, state-issued car up in the air, and it's on top of the hood of this parked car.
Yeah, and I'm guessing it's a front-wheel drive vehicle, and for whatever reason, it climbed up. I don't know how fast you could possibly be going. We don't want to leave anybody with the expectation that she's just flying down the road.
Right.
That certainly doesn't seem to be the case.
In the insurance report, in fact, she claims she was only going 15 miles per hour. It's downtown Raleigh. It's only a block from her office. The auditor's office is 1 block from where this crash happened. So even in the worst case scenario, there's not a whole lot of speed you can get in that kind of block.
Let's talk about what we don't know. And I think the elephant in the room that everybody's thinking is, was she drinking? You know, you're at a holiday party. We at least have finally confirmed that. And then you're in an automobile accident. And then you have some reason not to be there when you know the police are coming. You leave the car running and halfway up in the air, and you're not there. I mean, we've not been able to ascertain that.
Right. We have asked over and over again of her attorney, a publicist that she has hired as well to handle this response. And that's a question they're just not answering. They won't say yes or no, or even no comment on that. So we've been trying. We've been asking that question. I think, I've talked to several attorneys about this. They have no relationship to this case. And all of them have said the same thing is, you don't run away from the scene of a crash unless there's something you're trying to cover up or trying to avoid or evade.
Right. I mean, rarely in this line of work, if someone doesn't want to answer questions, if they remain silent, a lot of times, at least I think it's reasonable for people to think, well, the truth must be worse than whatever happens if you're silent. Right. And there is a criminal prosecution in this case. She will be, is expected to be, or at least her attorney for her, in court Thursday morning. We'll have continued reporting, I'm sure, about that, WRAL.com and on the newscasts. As one of WRAL's political reporters, I'll kind of weigh in on this too, but what are you hearing from viewers on this? Are they forgiving? The state auditor, accountability and transparency, that's basically the job. I mean, she has frequently criticized people when her auditors show up at a state agency and they won't answer questions. Well, Beth Wood is very critical of that, and now Beth Wood is not answering questions. Will she face consequences for this at the ballot box if she runs for another term? She's not up till 2024. What do you think on that?
A lot of viewers that have reached out, they are asking the questions that we're asking. They want to know, why not just say what happened? If there's something that you did that you made a mistake, then admit to it and explain it. And I think that the silence speaks louder than words, as they say. And a lot of the people that have been writing in and messaging us want to know because they believe that if someone who's holding state agencies accountable isn't holding themselves accountable, that brings into question some of the work. And so a lot of our viewers have written in and said, how do you trust that the work that's being done is fair and responsible if a person doesn't feel the need to take the responsibility in their personal situation? And I'll let you talk more about the politics of it all. We have been talking to lawmakers, but there's also been a lot of silence from a lot of politicians.
Right. And I've not heard a single, high-ranking elected official from either party, from Democrats, Republicans, any parties, call for her resignation. The state GOP, the North Carolina Republican Party, they have called for her resignation. Probably worth pointing out here that the man the Republicans nominated in 2020 to run against her, had a lengthy history of stalking charges. His record was not exactly clean there. The governor has basically tisked her a little bit. Governor Roy Cooper, who is a Democrat and thus head of the party in North Carolina. Speaker of the House Tim Moore today basically said, he's a Republican, basically said, let's let the court process play out. Senate President pro tempore Phil Berger, which is just a fancy title that means head Republican in the state Senate, he said that she's been a very good state auditor, but that this calls a lot of things into question. But stop short, right, of calling for his resignation, for her resignation.
Right, and that question was asked directly, should she resign? And he said, his direct quote, "I don't know that that's a call for resignation." He said he wouldn't vote for her again, and he didn't vote for her the last time. But he said he thinks there does need to be a change at some point, but said the biggest thing he'd like to hear from is the Democrats, since it is someone they're a member of their party. He would like to hear from the Democrats. I will say I've reached out again to the governor's office, Attorney General Stein, as well as the North Carolina Democratic Party, to see if there is any kind of response, especially with that new Instagram video. It's sort of a smoking gun in this situation. You see what's happening, and no response so far, or no changed reaction to what they've already said of letting this play out in court.
All right. Well, we got team coverage on this one, and it will continue. I promise. When people don't answer our questions, we tend to remain interested. I want to thank everybody for listening today to the WRAL Daily Download. Thanks for making us part of your morning. Another great way to get WRAL news is the Morning Briefing newsletter. Daily email waiting in your inbox every day with Triangle news, events, headlines to get you ready for the day. Sign up at WRAL.com/newsletter. Matt, thank you for your time.
Glad to be here.